All right, Jessica, here I am looking at your rock, paper, scissors program. One thing that I'm noticing right away is that it's a problem with your counters, and this is the easy thing to fix, okay? You put this as static, which is correct, because you did not, a regular dim statement would reinitialize it back to 0 each time. Static does not do that. It lets it sets it as a variable, but then only initializes it to 0 once. Okay, and you need to do that because you need these counters to keep incrementing up as things happen. But then you totally defeat the purpose of that by telling it equals 0 each time. So you have the right equation in for it to add to itself, but if you're setting it back to 0 every time before you do that, the most it's ever going to be is 1, right? Because it gets in here the next time you play the game, resets to 0, then tries to add 1 again. So you don't want it to be 0 whatever. You want it to be 0 when it first starts, but then to add as each draw comes in. So same thing with losses and wins. Don't tell them they're equal to 0. You did that at the beginning, and then they should add up as they go. But the bigger problem, and why it wasn't easy to, that I would have just sent you a message about. But we got some logic structures here that obviously aren't working for you because the message box just keeps popping up all over the place, right? So I think kind of what we need to do is try to restructure this. So I'll try to work on restructuring one of these for you, and then you can see how you need to do it. But I think what would be helpful here is, so let's just try to fix this. Let's deal with if the user has rock checked. Okay? So if the user has rock checked, and then there's the computer has rock, definitely there's going to be a draw here, right? And the game's over. Now, I think what you want here, though, is instead of this being an else if, because what you're saying here is, if this is true, do this. If it's not true, look at this, do this, right? And so if it's not a draw, if it's not a draw, it puts up this message box. Neither of you do you want to play again? Well, you don't want that to happen if it wasn't a draw, right? So I think what you got here, this if then just needs to deal with if they click they want to play again, right? So I don't think this is an else if. I think it's a nested if then that's inside of here. So if it's a draw, we're checking for that, and then this message box shows up, and if they check yes, that they want to play again, then rad rock is just set to false. Now, you are right, inside of this would be a else application exit. So if they click yes, all we do is uncheck the rad button, and else we're going to do application exit. Now, what I would do as an else if in here is, so they have rad rock checked, why don't we and we're checking it against the computers. So let's say we didn't have this draw. So right now I think we got this set up for the draw to happen correctly. But what if it's not a draw? Let's go down here and let's take this one where rad rock is checked again. I just think that grouping these together, I'm going to cut that, and let's put that up here for now. So, and I actually think that instead of another if then, let's make it an else if for this. Now we're going to end up with an extra end if in here probably, and that's okay. There we go. I think we're all right on that. Let me line it up so it makes sense. So now, up here I checked, did they check rock? Did the computer have rock? If so, it was a draw. Now, inside of here, it's a draw. I'm giving them feedback on a draw. If they click yes, I'm just unchecking the box. If they don't check yes, we're closing the application, right? But now the other else if off of this is, let's say they have rad rock checked and the computer choice is paper, right? So now we're saying computer used paper, they covered your rock, and they should lose, right? We don't want to get rid of the don't reset losses to 0. We want to add 1 to losses, right, and show that. Here again, this isn't an else if. This is just an if then. Oh, and then we do need that other end if. That's okay. I'm checking if they checked the message box. Yes, to play again. If they did, just get rid of the rad rock thing, right? Else, close out the application. So see now, I'm checking. So there's one other time that they can have rad rock checked, right? And the computer tries to be something else. So let's go find that. So here's the other one right here. Rad rock checked. I'm going to cut that so I can paste it. And this is going to be, we're going to paste it in here. It's going to be another else if. So we're just looking at all the situations here for if they checked rad rock. Rad rock checked. Computer has rock, draw. Rad rock checked. Computer has paper, the computer won. Rad rock checked. Computer has scissors. So the user wins, right? So here again, don't set wins back to 0. Let it add 1 to it. This is not a else if. It's something that should happen in here if they click yes, right? To play again. And otherwise we're getting rid of the application, right? So I think I think this logic structure is going to work unless I missed something. Now the only thing I fixed here, this is all for just if the user checks rad rock, right? So let's see. So that's the only one that should be fixed. So let's take a look at this. So if rock is checked, I click play game, and it's saying computer used rock, rock and rock, draw. Neither of you won. Do you want to play again? So if I say yes, now here, oh, I see what's going on. Okay, let's just say no. Let's go down, because these other ones aren't fixed, they're still going to interfere. So one thing you can do when you're testing stuff like this, I just selected all the rest of it. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say comment this selection. So what it does is it makes all that comment, so now it's not code that's going to run. Because I just want to test and see if rad rock is going to work here. So let's try again. Rad rock's checked. Click play game. Oh, and now it says I won because computer had scissors, so that's right. And there's a 1 that showed up in there. If I say yes, unchecked it, I can play again. Now the only thing that's going to work is rock, so let's try that again. I lost. Looks like the losses added up correctly there. Would I like a rematch? Yes. Rock. I lost, you know, so but now it looks like it's working here, right? Now if I click paper, nothing's going to happen because I commented out all the code for that. But it looks like we've got a logic structure that works here for rad rock, right? So you were close, using some of the right things, but just not getting it structured correctly. You know, we start getting into these nested if-then statements. It gets a little tough, but right now this whole thing is one big structure here. If this is true and this is true, go in and do this. If it's not, check for this. If it's not, that's not true, check for this. But then inside of here, we've got this whole thing. So a draw did happen. So when the draw happens, add to draws, put up a message box asking them, telling them it was a draw and ask them if they want to play again, and then reset things. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, you do have to go in here. I would group it. Now I would regroup your logic structure to just deal with rad scissors, right? And if you get everything restructured for all the rad scissors to be in one big if-then, else-if kind of thing, and fix your message boxes so they're just if-thens, you'll have that one set. Then there would be one big structure for the paper things too, right? And by the way, if you comment out a section like this to test it, you can select it all again, right-click, and say uncomment, and then it's back to code that you can use. So I hope that works. I hope that helps you a lot. You're really close, just restructuring some of your logic. I don't think we'd ever been able to communicate all that just typing back and forth. So hopefully this video will help you out. Let me know.